Hello, today we are going to program KDE Plasma 6 widgets. So this is a widget, this is Kicker, named Application Launcher. This is another widget. This is an entire list of widgets that you can add, for instance, to the desktop. This is the analog clock. Let's see how we can place it on the desktop and in the center. Like this, exit edit mode. And let's see the desktop. How do we close this thing? And now we have a widget for KDE Plasma 6 in the center of the desktop. The name of the widget is analog clock. There's an action for the left mouse button and click, which shows the calendar. There's a way to resize this thing, which is you enter edit mode by right-clicking on the widget, enter edit mode, and then you can resize as you want. There's settings, keyboard shortcuts, a bit of help about. This is the official tutorial, develop.kde.org/doc/plasma/widget. On Google, I searched for KDE Plasma tutorial. It's, the 7th result or something. So this one, develop KDE org docs Plasma widget. It says that by default, the widgets are installed. In my case, I'm using the Linux operating system Ubuntu 24.10 from binary packages or from deb packages. They get installed into this location /usr/share/plasma/plasmoids. Let's actually see what's available there. So there's quite a number of plasmoids. So plasmoids are very small things, not really applications, which can be displayed in KDE Plasma. You can put them on the desktop like I did, or on one of the panels, for instance. This is the default panel at the bottom of the screen. From what I see, all of the plasmoids that I have installed have names starting with org.kde. So that's a reverse domain notation. Let's list them. There's one for panel, so probably also the main panel is a plasmoid. There's one for battery status, for Bluetooth, so Bluetooth is this one. Kickoff is this one. System tray is probably this rectangle. What else is there? Display configuration might be this guy, K-screen. Show desktop might be this guy. Restore all minimized applications. Minimize all windows. Shows the desktop by minimizing all windows. I'm using Ubuntu 24.10, which uses a older version of KDE Plasma 6. So whatever you see on my screen right now is not up to date source code. Task manager might be this one, this rectangle with the list of installed applications and running applications and pinned applications. So this guy. Clipboard is probably this one. Where are you? This guy. Printers power management. Probably this guy. Pager is probably the virtual desktop switcher. Okay, so there's quite a list. Not all of them are visible by default. One of the tenets of KDE Plasma is that it's simple by default, but then extendable by users. If you really want to have a user switcher Plasmoid on your main KDE Plasma panel, you can totally do that. This is the user switcher. Let's look at the list of available widgets. When you go right-click on the main panel and add widgets. Unfortunately, I cannot see side by side the console terminal and the list of widgets at the same time. So this is probably pager. This is the analog clock that we looked at. There's 3 launchers: application dashboard, application launcher, application menu. Audio volume is this one in the system tray. Brightness and color was also in the tray. Okay, like this. Camera indicator, this one. Okay, let's continue with the tutorial. So the brightness one is this one. It says that there's 2 locations for widgets, one which is computer-wide /usr/share/plasma/plasmoids, and another directory which is per user ~.local/share/plasma/plasmoids. And if you want to start from one of the existing plasmoids, maybe there's a bit of information that you want additional, or you might want to change a bit the theme or the look of the plasmoid. So you like most of an existing plasmoid, but you want to just create a bit of a change. One way to do it is to copy an existing plasmoid from where it's installed per computer-wide and copy it to your directory per user directory. And then in order to make it available in the list of plasmoids, so here in add widgets, you want to use unique names. So you want to rename the directory where this directory where the plasmoid is stored. You want to change the ID, the name, the comment, etc., which is exactly what's done in here with a list of commands that you need to run from the command line. So let's actually do this. So we should change into the directory where we're already. Then we want to create this directory if it does not exist. If it exists, not a problem. And it will also create all of the intermediate directories up until this full path for a directory. So if the directory tilde/.local does not exist, it will create it. If the directory tilde/.local/share does not exist, it will create it. This is done by the -p parameter to make dir Unix command line. Okay. Then it says that we should take the analog clocks of this entire directory, recursively copy it to the per user directory. Let's do that. Let's see what's in this directory. Let's eventually change there. Okay, so maybe this directory did not exist before. It was created by makedir -p. The directory was certainly empty, but now it contains a Plasmoid, a Plasma widget. So the branding here is not that simple. There's multiple names for the same concept. There's Plasma widget, Plasmoids, and maybe some more names for the exact same thing. So it's a directory located in one of these two directories that has a standardized structure and standard files in there with standard content of those files. Okay, now it says that we should go to the per user directory, which we did, and then that we should rename the directory. Let's do that. So mv, and then this thing. So reverse domain notation for an existing GitHub account. Right click, copy. Alt backspace, Ctrl Shift V. So my analog clock instead of analog clock, and the reverse domain notation is changed altogether from org.kd.plasma to com.github.zren. Okay. And now it says that the ID, we should change the ID. Let's actually open this thing in Visual Studio Code and see what's happening there. So there's a directory contents and a file, which is the entry point metadata.json with a description of the Plasmoid. If you go to add widgets, you can see that. How do we go there? You can see that all Plasmoids have a title, a subtitle, and an icon, at least. So let's see. The title would be probably the description is probably the subtitle. Icon is the icon that probably is, I don't know, part of the content of the contents directory, and name is the title. Okay, so in here it says that we should replace analog clock, which is the name, to my analog clock in the file metadata.json in the top level directory. Let's do that manually. And then it says that there's also an ID in metadata.json, this guy, org.kd.plasma.analogclock, We'll rename this to the name of the directory. And then it says that the translations for the name and description should go because we don't know how to translate my analog clock into Azerbaijani language. So for now, we'll just delete these. Let's see how this is done programmatically using sed and then -i, which means actually edit the metadata.json file. Did we do anything? Nope. Metadata.json. And we're in the correct directory. And we have run sed -i. Because the name is not at the start of the line. So it says that name should be at the start of the line. So the tutorial is not great. Should be improved. And it's also using double quotes. So from what I remember, maybe I'm wrong, but previously this file that's now using the JSON file format has used the INI file format. So in there, this part was missing altogether. So these many spaces, which is indentation in JSON JavaScript, and then the double quote. It was just the ID, which is in this case the key, and then an equals, and then the value. Okay, so the correct things to use here. Let's actually edit these. Because it's JSON, we want to, at the beginning of the line, allow as many white spaces as possible. So \s plus, or let's make it. So this means the previous one, 0 or any number of times, whereas plus would have meant 1 time or more. So not 0 times for the preceding space. And then the double quote, I'm not sure if it goes like this or if we should escape it. Name after name, there's square bracket. Let's see now. Okay, let's see if name still exists. After description was the name. So yeah, it's in here. And the exact same treatment for the translations for the comments. Not comment, but description. Okay. Maybe it changed to description. But the idea is to have all of the lines that contain strings like this, so square bracket, the name of a human language, and then the square bracket closed. So all of these lines should disappear. Does not matter if it's name, description, subject, title, whatever. They should disappear. But indeed, just name and description are translated in at least in this KDE Plasma Plasmoid. Okay, let me save the results or what I want to change, the way I want to change this tutorial. I'll create a merge request that proposes to fix the tutorial after we finish. This way we have also proofread this part of the tutorial. Okay, and now it says that there should be no desktop file if such a thing exists. So desktop metadata.desktop. So the desktop file is an INI file format. So maybe Plasmoids for a while had both JSON and desktop files with identical content or equivalent ones. So I'm not sure why I'm deleting this thing. It's probably has not been used in KDE Plasma 6 at all. Let's check this theory. So in the directory where all of the plasmoids are installed, the persystem directory, open Visual Studio Code and search for metadata.desktop, Ctrl-Shift-F, A, and first include Ctrl-V. So name and comment, and the file formats are similar. Org KD KUP. So this is probably, I know, the backup application. Okay, so let's see. Is there an icon? Yes, there is. Is there a name? Yes, this one. Translated description, comment, this guy. And then a bug report URL. Nope. A license, this guy. And this guy. Plugin category. This guy. So I'm going to guess that at the beginning, like a number of years ago, only the file metadata.desktop existed in top level in the directory of a KDE Plasma applet. And then with time, there was a migration from the metadata.desktop file to metadata.json file. So this line does not hurt and we can keep it. Will not do anything in this case. Okay. And now it says that we have changed the Plasmoid enough that we can run it using a command line application that is able to load just one KDE Plasma Plasmoid, mostly for debugging purposes and for testing purposes. Let's see. Is not compatible with Plasma 6. Error when loading applet. Let's see, maybe I don't have this executable on my system again. I'm on Kubuntu 24.10, which has an older version of the Qt 6 library and an older version of the KDE Plasma 6 desktop. Plasma window does exist on my computer, so the command line tool, and it can open unmodified KDE Plasma 6 widgets, such as this one, or KDE Plasma analog clock from the bare system install directory for Plasmoids. So that means that the way that I have changed the existing Plasmoid, there's something wrong in there. Let's redo everything from scratch. But this time I'm going to do it with a Git repository, such that I can easily see when things go wrong and what has changed after running each of these command lines. Okay, so I should be in tilde/share/plasma/plasmoids. Let's remove this directory. ls should show nothing. I should copy. I'm not sure what's doing here. Why do we copy and then move instead of just copying directly here? Maybe cp-r does not know how to rename directories. Yeah, who knows? Let's immediately see if things work. So there's the Plasmoid, that's the analog clock. I'm going to do something very not recommended. I'm going to rename the directory. Okay, so the analog clock does not exist any longer in the per system directory, only exists in the per user directory. It was just copied, so Plasma window should continue to work correctly. Let's see that. And it works correctly. Now would be the time to create a Git repository. Let's see what files exist in here. So top level file metadata.json, and then in the contents directory there's configuration, which is probably the settings dialog, and the main UI. Okay, initial commit. And now we're ready to continue. Control Z, PG. We actually want to close Git GUI because we're going to rename this entire directory. Okay, this is the step where we rename. I'm not sure why it's using the relative path to the current directory. Should not. So // is extra, at least in the bash command line shell. Okay. another git commit. No need to, we just rename the directory. Okay. And now we want to rename the inside metadata.json the ID and the name. Let's see if these two work. We can see by looking inside Git GUI what changed there. So the correct ID, the correct name looks okay. Let's do a git commit. New IDs. And then our sets, which, because it's a JSON file, we need to be careful with the trailing semicolon. So the trailing comma, or let's exactly see. Probably these two sets have done something wrong. So there's a trailing comma, and in JSON and JavaScript, it's illegal to have a trailing comma before a curly bracket or a square bracket, probably. So this is actually the bug. We need to remove this trailing comma. And then there's another one at description, but there's the continuation for this object. It also renames it. There is a translations for the author, the name of the author. So let's commit as is, and then fix the trailing, the extra trailing commas. Remove translations. Okay, and now we're ready to start Visual Studio Code. It shows the error, trailing comma. Let's fix how many errors do we have. In the mini map, we can see that there's just one error. Where is the error list? Problems in here. Control S. No problems in the minimap. No problems in the problems tool window in Visual Studio Code. Save. So fix all trailing comma choose. Let's see exactly how Visual Studio Code calls that issue. Trailing comma. That's what it is. Errors. There should be no comma. Okay. Fix trailing comma error. Next up, this command line that doesn't do anything. Maybe we should use a command line parameter for the rm Unix command where if the file does not exist, it does not write anything to standard output or standard error. So let's see that. Ignore non-existing files and arguments, never prompt. I guess this is the one. Okay. And this time it should run correctly. We can do it from outside of this directory if we want. And it's what we would expect. So a KDE Plasma 6 analog clock widget or Plasmoid. It looks like the one that we have placed on the desktop background. It's always a square. You can resize it. Can make it really, really small. There's a minimum size. Okay, let's see what we can change in here. Let's change a bit the look in here. I'm not sure what's shown here. So we need the Visual Studio Code in here. Let's close this thing. Don't save. Let's look at the contents. What do we have? There's QML files and what else? Qt Quick, which is QML, and additional items. So objects, especially graphical objects in QML, Qt Quick, are called items. So this is using a library with exported types, exported items. The main entry point probably, Plasmoid item. It's using the layouts library from QML, Qt Quick. It's using SVG files. Is there an SVG in here? SVG item. SVG clock SVG. I have searched for KDE analog clock theme, and the 9th result is from Kubuntu forums, analog clock widget change color theme. In here we can see that there's an SVG picture from the theme directory. This says Aya, this says Elegance, this says Slim Glow. And then we can also see here at the start of using the QML item ksvg.svg, so the svg item from the ksvg library, it says that the image will be loaded as an svg file from widgets/clock, which is per Plasma desktop theme. Let's look at the Plasma desktop themes. Plasma style. So there's Breeze, Oxygen, and Kubuntu Focus. If we search, so probably there's a directory widgets, probably there's a file named clock with one of the extensions that are loadable by SVG from KSVG. I'm searching in the entire directory /usr/share for a file with a clock in name. So it should be just clock, the name of the file clock, and the extension is svgz, where svg is the file format and z probably compressed. I can see at least 2 KDE Plasma themes that have theming for the clock. There's Oxygen and the default, and the sizes are different. So default, I'm going to guess, is Breeze, and Oxygen is the alternative. Let's see how we can look at these files. With list box. Where are they? So probably these two files, /usr/share/plasma/desktop theme, default and Oxygen, and then widgets and clock. We can open each of these. This is the default, so Breeze looks like this. And the other one is the previous default theme, which is Oxygen. And this is the preview. So in Inkscape 5 is the keyboard key 5 is the shortcut for showing the entire image inside the editor area of Inkscape window. Let's open the Breeze one again. Five. And then let's look at the SVG source code. From the Inkscape main menu, edit, and then XML editor. We can immediately see the IDs that are used in the QML file. So in here it says the ones with Pascal casing. Clock face, this guy. Hour and shadow, this guy. Hour hand, minute hand shadow, minute hand, second hand shadow, clock face. Let's see if I can put some string on the clock face, for instance. Unfortunately, in layers and objects, it doesn't show the IDs, just so it doesn't show the human readable text, just these integer ID. So we want to go to the clock face, and then we want to look at the text, which is this guy. And then each individual letter here is just I'm going to guess a path, an XML path, SVG path, not really a font. So let's delete the second line altogether, but we'll want to back up first. So this one, the clock.svgz, don't do this, don't ever edit files in /usr. This is just for exemplification purposes. I'm a developer, I know what I'm doing, but you totally do not do such a thing. Okay. And copy clock original from today. Okay, so we want to delete all of these XML items. Let's see how you do that. Just click on use the keyboard key delete. And this should be it. But we're not elevated, so we need to copy it into a temporary directory, chmod it, etc. So I will save the file as extension svgz in a temporary directory. Then close Inkscape. This is the files, used to be 14 kilobytes, now it's just 12 kilobytes. Hopefully we didn't delete or we didn't change the file in such a way that it cannot be used any longer. Let's look at the chmod bits. There's an extra W in here for the group, but in general, if I just make it owned by the user root, should be okay. So that's shown. I do not know what I'm doing. SVGZ. Okay, again, do not do this at home. Okay, I cannot, so copy clock Z to here. Oh. Oh. Okay. And now the two files are identical in size, the same change time. So let's try. Plasma window, and then the name. And there's no longer any design, just says community. Okay, let's look at the source code one more time. There's an entry point with information about the KDE Plasma plugin as a whole. And then the graphical user interface is QML, which is a programming language from the Qt framework. The entry point is main.qml. Top level item is of type Plasmoid item. Probably from Plasma core. Has a name, Android analog clock. It respects your date time format. It computes hours, minutes, and seconds. There's QML functionality, so the implementation of events when the user clicks, when the user right clicks, when the clock ticks, etc. is done in QML, so in something similar to JavaScript, not in C++. This makes the plugin, the KDE Plasma widget, be no arch, so it can run on any architecture. Runs as well on AMD 64 as it runs on ARM 64, because it doesn't use any compiled code. There's just XML, SVG, QML, and a JSON. And then from here, it's if you want to change the way the functionality of the analog clock works, like if you want, for instance, the second hand to skip and only go from the 0th second to the 5th to the 10th to the 15th, this is where you would change. So in JavaScript like source code. This is an event implementation on changed for the data source for Plasma, which is part of the Plasma 5 support. Time zone change. A ton of bug fixes probably. Support for when the user actually changes the date time, the analog clock should get a fresh date. Mouse area for right click and single click and tooltip. SVG for the face. This one. And then from inside the SVG, it acquires parts of the SVG, such as our hand shadow and our hand. This way the functionality is inside of the Plasmoid, but the final look, the theme, is in different Plasma themes. So a Plasma theme can choose to to not provide a theme for the analog clock Plasmoid, which probably means that the default theme will be used, which is Breeze. But if a Plasma theme wants, it can provide different SVG files, different file named clock.svg, for the purpose of overriding the default theme for the analog clock. And from what I can see, only the Plasma theme Oxygen provides a custom clock.svgc file. So this is the basics of taking an existing KDE Plasma Plasmoid and modifying it to your liking. Both modifying the actual functionality, which is probably going to be done in QML files, but also modifying the look via changing the Plasma theme. Okay, this should be it. Let's now redo what we did. There's no any extra changes into the Git repository. Next up, we want to make sure that the Plasmoid or analog clock in /usr exists. So the analog clock does not exist anymore. There's just a backup of it. The contents of this directory are the original. The only thing that I really need to do here is to rename this directory back to the original directory name. I have renamed it such that I can prove that just copying this entire directory into tilde/.local/share/plasma/plasmoids doesn't break anything. And now it's time to undo this. So move this thing. Okay. And now the theme for the default theme for the analog clock, so the clock.svgz file. This is the directory /usr/share/plasma desktop theme default widgets. This is the modified clock, which is missing one word, and this is the original. Revert everything back to original. And everything should be back to a pristine state of the /usr directory. So I try to keep the /usr directory as clean as possible. The only place where I can actually put things is /usr/local, but even there I tend not to put anything because I mostly have just one user on this computer. I will put extra installed applications, for instance, into tilde/.local/bin instead of /usr/local/bin. But /usr without being followed by /local is for deb packages only. So this was how to edit existing KDE Plasma 6 widgets. You take the existing ones. There's also a number of Plasmoids that exist in the KDE Plasma store. So in the KDE store, which is an online website. You put them to the per user directory, and then you edit them as needed. You don't need to compile anything. Most of the time it's just no Arch files, so files which are not specific to a CPU architecture, JSON files, QML files, XML files, SVG files, SVGZ files, PNG files, etc. And you edit each of the files with the correct editor, so SVGZ files and SVG files with Inkscape, the QML files with I don't know, maybe Visual Studio Code or maybe Qt Creator, and put everything under version control in Git. And then very often between each changes, try to run the modified Plasma window using the command line Plasma windowed. If everything works okay, do git commit. Change a bit, test with Plasma windowed. If everything works okay, commit. Change a bit, try with Plasma windowed. If it doesn't work, then look at the git changes or even revert back to the last git commit. Thank you.